sports fans, and welcome to another edition of Scott Sports 101. I'm Scott Trella. We're going to get to some Browns news. It's a Browns editorial tonight, and it's involving them and the Jacksonville Jaguars becoming trade partners, but we'll get to that in just a moment. But first, here is today's Scott Sports 101 trivia question. In 2000, the U.S. basketball team featured two players from the Miami Heat, Tim Hardaway and Alonzo Mourning, which was the only other NBA team, to have two players on that team. I'll have the answer later in the podcast. As I just mentioned, we have a Browns editorial tonight. This time out. The Cleveland Browns and the Jacksonville Jaguars could become trade partners. The Browns are still in solid position with their salary cap, and they could help the Jaguars move on from Nick Foles and his hefty salary. And he does have a hefty salary, but a lot of people feel that he's better slated as a backup quarterback, but I don't know if any other team's going to want him. That's the question, what team is going to want him? Now, the Jacksonville Jaguars have screwed up their salary cap to the tune of $34 million, and they may be willing to give a lot to get their salary cap fixed. The Cleveland Browns have saved over $30 million of carryover salary cap dollars and could liberate some more by cutting some major salaries of veterans who no longer fit their needs. Now, the question is, if they do cut somebody, if they cut some veteran players, which ones do they cut? But I don't think they're going to want to get rid of Odell Beckham Jr. because we need him, and he did not have a good season last year, but he did put up some decent numbers, and we could still use him. Now, because the Browns have the 10th pick in the first round, and if they make a trade with Jacksonville, they could get the 7th pick. But we're going to have to wait and see what happens on that, but anything could happen, and this might be a good move. The Browns will probably not blow a substantial fraction of their carryover dollars on 2020 player salaries. John Dorsey did that last year, and he is no longer the general manager, but a long-term investment in draft picks does and makes more sense. And that does indeed make more sense. And I feel that the Browns, when the NFL draft does happen and take place on April 23rd in Las Vegas, Nevada, that they need to get some offensive linemen, defensive linemen, and tight ends. And I think they'll get some middle linebackers when the NFL Combine takes place next month. Now, and don't forget that I will be doing podcasts for all 3 days, the 23rd through the 25th of the NFL Draft, all 7 rounds, leading up to pick 254, Mystery Relevant. And for round number 1, I will be on location at the Murphy House, the home of my really good friends, Matt and Katie Murphy. And my special guest will be none other than my really good friend, Matt Murphy. So please tune in for that. You're gonna really enjoy it. You're gonna get a breakdown, and we'll have all the picks for you. So please tune in for that podcast on beginning round one of the NFL Draft beginning on April 23rd. Now, the core problem is that Jacksonville gave Nick Foles a whopping contract of $87.7 million last year, and then almost immediately decided that they would rather have Gardner Minshew as their starting quarterback. And Foles, it appears, is better suited to be a backup quarterback, and I agree with that, but he does want a starting quarterback position, but the question is, what team can he get it with? Now, for 2020, it would cost them an incredible $33.9 million to cut him outright. And I don't think they're going to do that. And if, on the other hand, they could convince another team to pick up his $15 million salary, then they can pare down their debt to a more manageable $18.8 million. Now, who the screw wants a backup for $15.1 million? The answer is nobody. And that's absolutely true. Nobody. The Jaguars would have to give up something good in order to convince a team to make a deal with them. And that is absolutely, and I agree with that. And they would have to give up something good. The Jaguars would, and it would probably be one of their defensive ends. I don't know, but we'll have to wait and see on that. But they would have to give up something good. Now, the same situation happened in 2017, and wound up with the Browns drafting Nick Chubb with the 2018 draft pick they received from Houston. The Browns gave up no players for Chubb, and only a fourth round pick. All they did was agree to pick up Brock Osweiler's enormous $16 million salary in 2017, and voila! The Houston Texans handed over the third pick in the second round, and Nick Chubb is a Cleveland Brown, and he has been with us since last season. And Osweiler never played a down for the Browns, though they did give him a tryout in preseason. Now, the Browns do not need Nick Foles because they have quarterback Baker Mayfield. And they are not interested in auditioning other candidates for that position. Therefore, they might bring in a third party that would want Foles to contend for a first-string quarterback job. Now, Foles definitely has more fair value than Osweiler. Osweiler was probably received by the rest of the league as a $2 million career backup, whereas Foles has done as well as a starter and has a Super Bowl ring to prove it. And that was when he was with the Philadelphia Eagles, and that's when they won the Super Bowl. And has and the right team would probably pay Foles at least Teddy Bridgewater money or a 1-year contract at $7 or $8 million. That might be a team like the Chicago Bears who would consider a competition for the first-string quarterback job. But as you know, they have quarterback Mitch Trubisky, who really put up some big numbers last year with the Bears. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But a team that does not have tons of cap space to help Jacksonville fix its cap problem. I will get back to this editorial, to the rest of this in just a moment. But right now, it is time now to reveal the answer to today's Scott Sports 101 trivia question. The 2000 U.S. Olympic basketball team featured two players from the Miami Heat, Tim Hardaway and Alonzo Mourning. Which was the only other NBA team to have players on that team? And if you said the Seattle Supersonics, you are correct. Vin Baker and Gary Payton, both players on the Seattle Supersonics at the time, were also members of the 2000 U.S. Olympic basketball team, and that is absolutely true. And as you know, the Seattle Supersonics are no more, and they are now known as the Oklahoma City Thunder. And I will have another trivia question on my next podcast, so stay tuned for that. So the way this could work is that the Browns would partially pay down Foles' contract with their stash of carryover cap dollars, the Jaguars could send the Browns a draft pick, and the Bears would also contribute a pick. That is actually what the Browns tried to do with Osweiler, but were embarrassed to find out that no one wanted Osweiler, even when his salary was completely paid for. They wound up cutting Osweiler, but they still had a valuable draft pick. and so I just really feel that this could really help the Jaguars, but I don't know. The Browns aren't going to want to get rid of Beckham, I don't think, and then it's going to be hard to see who they would want to trade up for this, if they would help the Jaguars out. And if it sounds confusing, well, that's why the Browns have guys from Harvard to work out the complexities of the deals. Just remember, this is how they got Chubb, and they only traded up cap space, no players. It could work again, though the Browns' cap space is tighter than it should have been had not John Dorsey overspent the cap allowance last year. However, according to SpotTrack.com, they still will carry over $32.3 million, and that's enough to help Jacksonville out of their salary cap mess if they are willing to give the Browns a reasonable asset to develop. And the Browns could wind up with a second-round pick or the equivalent, however, just as they did with Brock Osweiler. Now, I don't know what team is going to want Nick Foles to compete for a first-string quarterback, and that's going to be tough to. It's going to be tough to find, to really tough to see who which team would want him. So you really got to know. This is not going to be easy by any means, but this could work either way. So for the Browns and for the Jaguars. So I'll keep you updated on this editorial and this story, which is also an editorial. So just stay with me, because I'll update you every time I find out new news. I will update you on my podcast. So just keep that in mind, and I just want to announce that a little college news. Ohio State beat Rutgers last night, 72-66, to go to 16-8. And they will play Purdue on Saturday. And next week they will play Iowa. They will play Iowa's. And so hopefully, because March Madness begins at the end of this month, I believe, and hopefully they're going to be in the tournament. So we'll see what happens. That's just about going to wrap it up for this edition of Scott Sports 101. And I'll be back with another podcast this weekend on Saturday or Sunday. And until then, always remember, be a team player each and every day in every way possible. So long, everybody. 3, 2, 1, I'm done.